Welcome.
Sorry,
Welcome.
I think now I am visible.
Welcome. And
Thank you, sir.
how are you?
Now you are visible.
Well,
Yes.
Good. Umaji, you must be not earlier knowing Dr. Himanshu Pathak is our new Director General of ICR.
Congratulations.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. Certainly significant, important job.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, and he's actually the key person on work relating to climate change, and he was also one of the authors of IPCC reports and chapters before, and an authority. So we are very happy he could join. Dr. H.S. Gupta also is now there. So maybe we are more than 22, maybe around few more may join, roughly 30. So if you all kindly agree, we can possibly start. And others may join us as we proceed. So let me welcome you all on behalf of myself and on behalf of Trust. And it was an opportunity given to us based on the initial congratulatory messages that we had sent to Professor Rattan Lal for being invited to meet Honorable Prime Minister when he recently visited USA. And in Washington, a few academics, about 10 of them had met. And then many of us desired that let us try to hear from him as to what has transpired and what are the views of PM in relation to agriculture, because out of many disciplines, science, health, and engineering, agriculture was also included, and he represented. So it's a matter of pride for all of us. And therefore, we thought we will have this kind of webinar, though time is odd for colleagues in India. But I am now in US, so it is okay for me. Good morning to all of you. The purpose of this meeting is twofold. One is obviously to hear from Professor Rattan Lal. He also presented his book on soil and human health nexus to the Prime Minister. And then there was some discussion, and it was good of PM to have invited this kind of dialogue. He also had a dialogue with many, about 10 CEOs of eminent corporations in US, including also Elon Musk, particularly with regard to production of his car in India. And if that happens, the electric car will get again a boost because government is already laying a lot of emphasis for clean energy and reduction of emission. So I would say that first objective is to hear from Professor Rattan Lal. And then we have the second objective, because all the people who are participating and some of the colleagues have expressed that possibly we should try to think as to how a small intellectual think tank or group on climate smart agriculture we can try to do to make a difference, if at all it is possible. And so we may have a discussion after Professor Rattan Lal's presentation in terms of scaling technologies which are associated with climate smart agriculture. And in that respect, we have the invitation to a few panelists who would possibly make their intervention. And we are happy Dr. Himanshu Pathak is with us. We have also Umalele with us, Dr. Jeet Srivastava, Suri Sehgal Saab with us, who is working through his institute, IRAD, in the Mewat region at grassroots level on climate smart agriculture. Shekhar Patsavle is a popular and quite progressive farmer working again on no-till. And we have Usha Jaher we invited, I have not heard from her, who is working on carbon trading. And ML Jat, who is now heading the program at ICRISAT for NRM at global level. And earlier he worked with Simit and did a lot on conservation agriculture. And we have people like Ladda and others who will give their input subsequently. So I would like to be brief here. Purpose is twofold. The job should not only start and end, so possibly it may continue if there is a interest and committed people involved. And we also feel that time is ripe, and COP27 had clearly indicated that time is running out and there must be action. And luckily, Prime Minister also in his address to the Congress in the US made many statements, and specifically one that India is perhaps ahead of all others in meeting our commitment for Paris Agreement. And for Paris Agreement, agriculture has an important role to be achieved, which we can discuss later, or I will brief later. So let us now take this opportunity while thanking Professor Rattan Lal, hear from him and also his views relating to what he thinks can be done to make a difference, if at all. No, I know government is going ahead with many initiatives, which we'll talk again later. So, Professor Rattan Lal, please.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you, TAS, for organizing this meeting. It's really a great opportunity to exchange ideas. I must say that it was a great privilege to receive a message from Indian Embassy and Consulate General that I'm invited to join with a group of academicians. And that was certainly very pleasant surprise. There were 10 people together. The book report that Jeet Srivastava shared with us, 5 co-chairs in that book, Neeli Bandapudi, Robert Jones, he was not there, Pradeep Khosla, Sunil Kumar, and Satish Tripathi. They are members of this 10 team of academicians. And in addition to that, Dr. Jagmohan Raju, Dr. Madhavan Rajan, and Dr. Anurag Meral, all these are members of this group that met with Prime Minister. If you look at the affiliation of this group, they are mostly business, engineering, and medicine. And I was part of the agriculture part, which I'm glad that I had the honor to meet. The report that Jeet circulated, I did read it this morning also. It certainly mentions sustainable agriculture, climate change. It mentions prior cooperation between few universities in the US with Indian universities. There's a specific mention in that report about Ohio State's cooperation with Rajasthan and Punjab. So I think from that point of view, the report is very good. But the report does not have any member or co-chair from agriculture. I think this is one of the action we could take. It's not too late yet. So somehow, Raj, if we can reach out and have at least one, if not two people in the report, that'd be good. Coming back to the exact meeting, we were advised to meet with the Honorable Prime Minister in New York the evening before he was to take part with the United Nations Day of Yoga. That event happened in New York. And after he took part in the yoga in the morning, he went over to Washington and made an address to the Congress. So we met with him on the 20th evening in New York. And of course, Ambassador Taranjit Singh Sandhu and Consul General of New York, Jaiswal and his team, they were there all to organize the event. The Honorable Prime Minister had a very busy schedule. There were many groups lined up to meet him, one after the other from about 5 o'clock to 9 p.m. And our group had about 1 hour with him from 7 to 8. He greeted each one of us 10 one by one. And then we all sat together and he called people first from those who are the author of this report. He began with asking Dr. Shashi Tripathi to make his comment. As you know, he's president of University of Buffalo. Then he asked Dr. Neeli Bendapudi, who is president of Pennsylvania State University. So one by one, he asked members of the committee to give their comments. And then he asked me to give my comments and suggestions. Each one of us had about 2 to 3 minutes. And he had a staff member with him taking notes when we were making our remarks. My specific remarks were the need, well, first congratulating him and his government for making us very proud of India and India's accomplishment. And that came up repeatedly in many comments made by this committee member. Then I specifically mentioned the importance of soil health and in relation to climate change and in relation to food and nutritional security. I specifically mentioned the importance of carbon farming and indicated that carbon grown on land, both in soil and trees, can be a commodity that farmer can get an income from. So it's a commodity like corn, wheat, chickpea, milk, whatever else. So that part, and I also indicated that the nutritional deficiency affecting almost 200 million people in India alone, especially young children below 5 and mother, probably the solution lies in improving the quality of the food being produced. That means the health of the soil. He was very kind in listening, and he asked me a question about my views on zero budget agriculture. I want to mention that because my remarks, and if you think they were wrong, I would like to be corrected. I mentioned zero budget agriculture, like a zero budget industry, probably doesn't make sense, because agriculture is one industry where if we were to invest in it, the productivity that can be increased, especially of carbon, if that's the investment, it is not to be zero. If we invest 1 ton of carbon, it doesn't mean we should get only 1 ton back in production. We should get 10, 12, 15 ton. So the zero budget really concept need to be thought about and readdressed. Subsequently, we had some more questions about agriculture, and Ambassador was also listening. Overall, it was a very positive discussion. At the end of all presentation by each one of us, 2 or 3 minutes, he made a very strong plea to help India in improving science and education. He mentioned science and education, both part. And that was the concluding remark from him. I must say that listening to his comments to each one of 10 of us, as well as listening to his lecture next day to the US Congress, I felt very, very proud of being Indian and having opportunity to see how India is transforming. And he made a comment with us as well as next day that India was 7th country when he took over the government. It is number 5, and very soon it will be 3rd largest economy of the world. And that's really something to be very, very proud of. But he's also aware of the lack of progress on certain parts, especially food security and nutritional issue and climate change. And he mentioned climate change several times. So my goal in those 2-3 minutes was to indicate the importance that agriculture can be an important part of the solution, not only from economic and food security point of view, but also from the environment and climate. And I hope that we can somehow, we as a group can follow through with his government to indicate the importance of agriculture in addressing some of the environmental issues and economic issues in India.
Well, thank you, Rattan. I appreciate, and it's good that you were there and could highlight about the importance of agriculture and its possible contribution, because 1/3 of greenhouse gas emission is from agriculture and land use and the post-harvest losses. So that has to be understood and appreciated. And so we then come to the second part, and would like to also have your intervention, Rattan, subsequently or before we conclude, as to how we could really be of any, service to the nation in terms of initiatives that government is already taking to meet the Paris Agreement with the nationally determined contributions. We are happy that our contributions are higher than those expected 2020 for reduction in emission intensity. India is committing 35% as against 20 and seem to be progressing well and on the track. And the second is on clean energy by non-fossil resources. And that commitment is almost double than that of Paris Agreement, which was 20%, but ours is 40%. And we all know that India is progressing very fast and has moved ahead. And we were much behind, but in solar energy, after US, we have overtaken China and become number 2. And the commitment of Prime Minister in the COP26 in Glasgow of generating 500 gigawatt from clean energy sources, including biofuel. And again, it is encouraging that from agricultural crops, biofuel production has been allowed. And 20% of admixing in the car emission use has been permitted by the government. And another also initiative which now we see is with regard to the we have the other commitment of the government, which is bill for nationwide carbon trading market also has been approved, which means there will be possibility for ecosystem services by farmers for carbon trading. So these are good initiatives. Prime Minister has been saying खेत का पानी खेत में, हर पेड़ पर, हर मेड़ पर पेड़. So again, emphasis on carbon, um, sequestration and so on. And agriculture, you all are experts, you are aware, has to contribute a great deal. And for that, we have with us Dr. Pathak, now leading the national system as head of the ICR, an expert in this field. So maybe I request him to have his intervention and possibly give some suggestions as to what really can be done on the ground to make a difference. Because scaling, we know the technologies are there. Conservation agriculture, we have not moved in dryland areas, even laser leveling, drip system of irrigation, fertigation, fertilizer use efficiency, direct seeded rice system, in situ conservation approach using the happy seeder are all now the technologies which are proven, but they need to be scaled. And for that, what we can do, no doubt adaptation, mitigation are the two areas to be looked at. And it seems for mitigation, government initiatives are moving ahead. For adaptation, we can, in agriculture, play quite an important role, which is happening through ICR and university system. So, Professor Himanshu Pathak, please.
So thank you very much, and good morning to all those who have joined from US, and of course, good evening to those who have joined from India and maybe some other Asian countries. I think it is a wonderful opportunity to see all of you. So for me, it is indeed a great honor and privilege, sir, Dr. Paroda, that you have given this opportunity. And certainly I didn't want to miss this. Thank you, Dr. Rattan Lal, sir, for briefing about your very important meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister. He is a source of inspiration for all of us. And incidentally, yesterday only we had a meeting with him, three of us actually. Secretary Agriculture, Mr. Manoj Ahuja, of course, Dr. Paroda knows him very well, and I think many of you also know him very well. And then Secretary Fertilizer, one Mr. Misra, who was recently joined, and me, along with three of PMO staff, Dr. P.K. Misra and others. So it was a very small group, only 6 persons, and then Honorable Prime Minister. And again, the discussion was on agriculture, not specifically on soil and other things, but also overall agriculture, including agriculture infrastructure fund, all those subsidies, and of course, natural farming also came for the discussion. Soil was also a point of discussion. So just before I give my comments, let me tell you, because I had the opportunity to meet Honorable Prime Minister on 3 occasions. One was one-to-one just after my joining in this particular position, and that meeting went on for around 35 minutes. And then secondly, again, only 2 of us, and then this one just 3 or 4 of us, and then Honorable Prime Minister was there. So as we all know that Honorable Prime Minister has got a kind of fascination, I would say, on 2 aspects. One is soil for sure. On every occasion, whenever I meet, he has talked about soil health card, and then of course, what should be done now. So already we are thinking about and going to propose a plan. He also showed his little bit apprehension that we started soil health card program in a big way, but then probably it is not going as expected line. So you wanted some kind of suggestion, and probably this is a very good group of giving some of those suggestions which we will be able to incorporate in our plan also. And then for climate change. All of you know that in our Glasgow meeting, Honorable Prime Minister gave a call which in India we call as Panchamrit. So 5 clarion calls he gave. One is reducing emission intensity by 45%, not emission as such, but emission intensity, drawing 50% of energy from renewable sources, raising non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity to 500 gigawatt, cutting carbon emission by 1 billion ton, and these are all by 2030. And then, of course, by 2070, attaining net zero emission and carbon neutrality. In some of these areas, you will find that India has really made very significant progress in the field of renewable sources of energy and also non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity. In these 2 areas, the performance of India is quite satisfactory. Now we are working on how to attain net zero emission and carbon neutrality by 2070. And in agriculture front, certainly we could see that probably we will be able to do that. We made a very simple calculation, and Dr. Parada was also mentioning about the technologies, that if 4 or 5 things can be done, and if it can be upscaled up to not entire area, at least up to 25% area or so, our calculation shows that India will be able to achieve net zero at least from the crop sector. And we need not to wait up to 2070, we will be able to do it by 2040 or so. Just to give you a few numbers, emission of greenhouse gases from Indian agriculture is 408 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent. So you can say it around 400 million tons. And emission from crop sector, because animal cattle is the major emitter, around 55 to 60%. Crop sector emits around 150 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent per year. Now, conservation agriculture, rehabilitation of degraded land, precision agriculture, all of these are there. But then one calculation we did that if this conservation agriculture can be at least upscaled to 25% of the areas, then we will be able to achieve that mitigation target up to 52.5 million tons. Government of India has got a plan that by 2030, around 26 million hectare of degraded land should be rehabilitated. Now, even if we cannot do that, even if we can achieve 50% of that, and then for precision agriculture, a very big program is going on, not only from Agriculture Ministry, but also including all other science departments. Similarly, crop diversification. Of course, we all the time say it is not very easy, but then several things are happening in this area. And then, of course, organic or natural farming. We all have our apprehensions about natural farming. And Dr. Rattan Lal also very rightly mentioned about it. And in every meeting, we also discuss it. But then there are several others also who shows that there is a lot of potential. And in certain areas, there is potential actually. Because you will also know that still in many parts of our country, farmers do not apply much of fertilizer. In Northeast hill region, many of our tribal areas, many of our horticultural other crops, fertilizer use is very, very negligible. So we are not saying that let us stop using fertilizer for our major crops like rice, wheat, maize, and so on. But certainly in the areas where fertilizer consumption is anyway very low. And ICR's experiments also shown that wherever we have got legume-based systems, in those areas, fertilizer consumption can certainly be reduced. So if all of these things can be done, then our estimate shows that by 2040, around 163 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent can be mitigated from Indian agriculture. And currently it is emitting 150 million tons, as I said earlier. So rough numbers so that we will be able to make it, provided some of those upscaling things can be done. One or two big developments probably all of you are aware of is introduction of new fertilizer materials, including nano urea. Several of other products are also being promoted. Large number of bioformulations, including biofertilizers, are also in the market. The amounts are really very large. And in many cases, farmers are getting good advantage out of all of this. So all of this can really contribute towards achieving the climate change goals, what Honorable Prime Minister has set for this country. Just few days back, we calculated the trend of GHG emission intensity in Indian agriculture. And what we observed that since 1990 rather, in two areas, we are making some progress. One is mitigation aspect, that the GHG emission, if you calculate in terms of per unit area, then that value is of course increasing. But if you calculate the same number in terms of per unit of production, so how much we are producing at the cost of how much of emission of greenhouse gases, that value is decreasing over the years. So that means we are producing more with less and less emission. And similar number we can also get in terms of nitrogen use efficiency, at least for last 15 years or so. Along with this, if we can really promote One Health and other one, certainly the goals which have been kept by Honorable Prime Minister will be able to achieve. So these are, sir, some of my initial comments. If I find opportunity later, probably will be able to continue. But these are few of the numbers which I wanted to, and some of the pictures I wanted to present before you, just to initiate the discussion. But again, thank you very much, Dr. Parada sir, Dr. Rattan Lal, and each and every one of you for arranging this particular meeting in the very first place. And of course, giving me opportunity to be a part of this elite group. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. Dr. Umesh Srivastava, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah.
Can you mute yourself? There is a voice coming, noise.
Mute it, sir.
Okay, Dr. Pathak, appreciate your intervention and a very positive note. And then also we see that there are plans and actions on ground for implementation. If you don't mind, can we have just a brief note of what these targets and strategy that you have just narrated can be shared, which we can further, deliberate and see as to what more can be done.
Sure, sir. I shall do that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And one thing again, I would also highlight, as you mentioned, that agriculture should not be seen as a problem, but a solution.
Right.
To the problems of climate change. And we have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from our sector side, which seem to be around 33% of the total one. And a government commitment for Paris Agreement is that we have to have additional carbon sink of 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. And expectation was that it would come through more forest cover. Under the forest policy of the country, we are aiming 33%, but for last 2 decades, we are stuck up at 25%. So to increase forest cover from 25 to 33 possibly may not be achievable and may not be practical. But that's where we see agriculture can play an important role. In the context of afforestation, agroforestry, plantation programs, and a lot of lead is there and technologies are there, which possibly have to be scaled on, a bigger scale. And then conservation agriculture, you rightly have already indicated, and the cropping system and diversification again offers opportunities. Managing bovines also is very important, as you would kindly agree. And no doubt people are saying that India contributes more through bovines, which possibly may not be correct, because our bovines are not all in those feedlots generating the emissions of methane. But we need to manage our livestock more better and provide better feed and nutrition. And also good agronomic practices and the fertilizer use efficiency are the areas which offer a lot of opportunities. And we therefore possibly have to have a clear roadmap uh, as to what is doable and which can be done. And it can't be recipe for the entire country, but maybe ecosystem wide, and see what can be demonstrated on ground in different ecosystems by different institutions or stakeholders. So I would just stop there and come now to our few of the uh, panelists. And since Dr. ML Jat has to pick up his flight and he's at the airport, maybe, and he has been working with the farmers and also with the international institutions and program in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and now in Africa. So, ML, could you please intervene just briefly?
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. First of all, my grand salute to Professor Rattan Lal ji for being very straightforward on zero budget before the Prime Minister. I think that is very helpful. Sir, so a lot of things Dr. Pathak ji have shared, but I think when we talk about the strategy on the climate change and climate smart agriculture, we have been working and we have a lot of technologies, but I think in terms of the scaling and the adoption, the one of the issue and which you have been emphasizing time and again, I think we need to move from research institutions to the farmer participatory, which is some we are doing, but I think we need to move from plot to the landscape. Why I'm saying it? Because when we talk about resilience or adaptation or even mitigation, I think soil and water are the foundation. Now, the water conservation cannot be done at the plot level. That needs a kind of landscape approach. Also, the land degradation neutrality also need landscape approach. When we talk about increasing the green cover, when we design the landscapes, and you mentioned about the hermade prepared, I think when we design the landscape, that also brings the opportunity for agroforestry, for the tree plantation on those burns. So without losing any land or the agricultural land, we still can have more green cover, which not only help in sequestering the carbon, but I think if we design those and bring that green cover, that can also help us in limiting that 1.5 degree, because the canopy will be cool because of the tree plantations. But I think we need to have, when we talk about mitigation, I think we need to have the emission hotspots identified. In many of the areas where we see there are opportunities for GHG mitigation, we target those, make our strategies, and most of the rain-fed areas where we may or may not see the opportunity for reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions per se, but emission intensity will be reduced. But then low productivity, low input use areas, we may need to increase the productivity, and in that case, we may need to increase the input use. That may not lead to the absolute reduction in the emissions. Obviously, that will reduce the emission intensity. That means even if we talk about the two broader geographies, like strategy for the irrigated systems and strategy for the rain-fed systems, I think we need to have the clear strategy. Now, there are other, several initiatives, and I think that's what we should be thinking on is how to make the convergence. We talk about One Health, and I think that One Health also contribute to the climate smart agriculture, climate change. You mentioned about the bovine, and I think when we talk about improving the soil health, that certainly lead to the improve the forage quality, fodder quality, or the straw quality, and that will have the better digestibility of the animals, reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. We haven't done that kind of work yet, but I think that will certainly have an opportunity. Opportunities when we talk about the, like we are talking about the millets or the legumes, that fodder, if we link to the livestock, that fodder digestibility can help us in reducing the methanogenesis or methane emission from the livestock. But I think we really need to have a kind of a rethinking or repurposing of the investment what we are making and putting them in a holistic way, because climate change is bigger, and then we work in isolation on the water, we work in isolation on soil, we work in isolation on the agroforestry. But when we work at the landscape scale, I think we can have the water conservation as an entry point, and then design our systems which are low emission, high productive nutrition, and also what Dr. Pathakji mentioned about diversification. And one of the major bottleneck what I have seen in the diversification is our plot level demonstration. They are not going to take us anywhere. I think we need to have a cluster approach, because until we have a cluster approach, there is no market linkages, there is no value chain, there is no inputs. And then there are damage by the wild animal, damage by the birds, and then farmer will struggle. So I think if we really need to make a diversification, can we design a water budget-based cropping systems strategy for the country? And so that we don't put any pressure on the groundwater and put an emphasis on the rainwater conservation. I think that can help us in designing the climate resilient agriculture, the low emission, and then certainly we can link it to the carbon markets and carbon farming, which is emerging very rapidly. But I think long way to go, not only the carbon markets, but the quality of the carbon, because it depends where you are. At the same time, we also need to think about valuation of the ecosystem services. So there is no work as of now on the valuation of the ecosystem services, which go beyond the carbon and carbon trading. So those are the new areas, but I think we have to have a kind of integrated approach, not for crop, not for horticulture, not for livestock, but I think a complete portfolio. And that's what is really needed. That means bringing all the stakeholders together. So kind of an agri-food system transformation approach. And in that context, I feel like a landscape is the entry point for transformation of the agri-food systems, because you have every element, in that landscape level. Although landscapes could be of 500 hectare or 5,000 hectare, depends where you are. But I think that's the approach we should be adopting when we think about. But then we can have an immediate, short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategy. So what we have a long-term, what is medium-term, and what is the immediate term? I think that's the clear. We need to define clearly. So those are some of the thoughts, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ML. We appreciate again many of these suggestions which require attention, and I am sure Dr. Pathak is often interacting with you and is aware, and you had been working with him in the group for quite long, and he has given already the strategy of making an impact and moving ahead. Probably there is need for rethinking on land use planning in ecosystem basis, and also involving stakeholders and make an impact. And one strategy would not fit all. So thank you. We can then, first I would like to inform the group that we in the participants have Dr. J.K. Ladda, who had been with IRI, initiator of climate smart agriculture to a greater extent. Dr. A.K. Singh, Vice President of National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and earlier DDG, NRM, ICR. Dr. Prabhu Pingali is also with us. Professor Gajinder Singh, earlier Deputy Director General Engineering, and also Dr. H.S. Sidhu. And in engineering side also, there are a lot of developments, achievements, and one can scale them. And H.S. Gupta is there, former director IRI, and director PISA, and Professor Ramesh Kanwar. So I see that we have a good number of participants. Professor R.B. Singh is also joining us now. So Professor R.B. Singh, welcome to you. Maybe we'll hear from you later as we move forward. So with this, I now would like to request Turi Sehgal sir, if he can give some of his views based on again work on at grassroots level.
There's some background noise, but
Yeah,
let me.
someone has to mute it. Can you tell Dr. Umesh Srivastava to stop it? Simi, yeah, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to say a few words. Most of people present here don't know me or don't know of me. I represent a private foundation we call Sehgal Foundation. It's a grassroots organization, very different from, I'm not from the academic world. I don't work on the global level. I am pretty much retired, but we got this foundation started about 22 years back. It works in 2,000 villages in India. And I think those people, some of you, especially Dr. Paroda and Dr. Varma, they are aware of what we do. We have spread all over India. Our basic thrust, coming back to agriculture and smart agriculture, we do a lot of things, and our approach is also a very integrated approach. And the purpose of this morning discussion is climate smart agriculture. We have a limited program on climate smart agriculture. I always felt, as I said, we are the grassroots organization and not a academic. I don't represent an academic institution. I always felt, I am basically a person who comes from the private sector. And got into this rural development area in India through our foundation. When we started, we said the biggest problem in India is a disconnect between what is the policy and what happens in the field. What is said at a very high level is not what you see in the villages. So our approach is very basic. We work at the grassroots level with the villages, and we have almost 300 people in the field at the grassroots level. And as our thrust is really village development and empowerment, and it's empowerment of women. So let me get back to smart agriculture. In the beginning, when we started, one of our programs is agricultural development. We said it's very basic thing. What does India need? Whatever you look at the three basic ingredients of agriculture development is you pay attention to water, you pay attention to soil, and you pay attention to good seed. And we said, rather than working on high-powered technologies, which by nature I am, by training and all my business has been in biotechnology area, but we said we need to pay attention to soil. With Professor Rattan Lal is they're very brilliant scientists who can help with the soil, but we know Indian soils literally have no organic content. So I think that the whole area of improvement soil and carbon sequestration and whatever is being talked brilliantly by Dr. Pathak and Dr. Jat is very important. We need to pay attention to the soils, and we work on soil health through various means, and we don't call it carbon sequestration, but our thrust is to improve carbon content. And then coming to water, which is our big program, not only, water is a big problem because 60% of agriculture in India is rain-fed. And I agree with Dr. Jat when he said we need different policies for irrigated agriculture and for rain-fed agriculture. Now, when you are working in a foundation, livelihood is most important. It is nice to promote certain policies, but will they be adopted? The rate of adoption is very different, is very nice. But when you work in the villages, we work in the villages, and we see certain things. Everything is tied to economic return, and things get adopted very well if the policy is right. I don't want to go into it, but our thirst on water, with all what is happening, climate smart agriculture, if we don't pay attention to water has two means. One is irrigated area. You're talking groundwater, which is a big problem. And our effort in the field, as I said, we are more practical people and pragmatic people because I come from business background, and bottom line to us is very important. What is the impact? Where is the sustainability? Those are basic questions. And I think it is just, I mentioned it, that we don't do anything which does not have impact in the field at the farmer level, and which does not have long-term sustainability. And that only comes through empowerment of the village community or working with the community. And then water, as I said, in dryland area, water storage is a big problem. Those old days, all those ponds and there where the water was they're under concrete or getting under concrete. So the question is basically how to rejuvenate those old structures, how to direct the water to aquifers where the water will be stored, become a groundwater. So we work various aspects of water, especially water harvesting. A lot of it we have built over 200 check dams, and the water storage, I think, in India in dryland areas is so important, and these check dams have a great impact. So then the question is, as I said, I am a seedsman by nature. I work on, it's very important to talk about resilient agriculture and resilient seed. We know from our plant breeding training that maturity and yield is correlated. When we say, oh, short season variety, what does it mean, short season? Yield goes down. If there is no water, the yield goes down. Whatever, there is no dryland agriculture as such, unless you accept very low yield. So, as I said, we work on three basic issues: seed, water, and soils. And as I said, I am not an academician to give you basic, but I think if we have to have climate smart agriculture, for the time being, we can forget the big, very capital intensive technology. I agree with Professor Rattan Lal, tremendous need for improving our soil through carbon sequestration, increasing the carbon content, because right now, if you go to Punjab, you listen about those cancer trains going to, because there is the soils are in terrible shape. The water I mentioned quite a bit, and with all due respect to our the climate people, we still We don't understand much about El Nino and El Nina. Now we are going into El Nino. What do we know about El Nino? What do we know about the monsoon, erratic monsoon? Where are the storage structures? So I think, Brother Saab, if we don't pay attention to integrated approach, the soil, water, and resiliency, it is tough to talk about smart agriculture. And okay, and the last word is, sorry, I took a little more time than 5 minutes, but I only say that we, since we are based in India, we have very nice facilities in Delhi and also in Hyderabad. These are the two of our hubs, Hyderabad and Delhi. We offer a platform. Anybody who wants to, the brilliant academicians here on this group, if they want to experiment, use it as a platform to experiment with any of the climate smart agriculture. We are very open to entertain that idea. And thank you, Brother Saab. Basic thing is seed, soil, and seed, soil, and season. Season means water. If we take care of these three things, we take care of smart agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Suri Saab. My apology that I did not introduce you. I thought everyone knows you so well. Your contributions to Indian seed sector through ProAgro, earlier with Pioneer, and as a philanthropist, your support, which has been extended to many organizations and the institution like IRAD, the only first green building in Gurgaon, built by you. And I had been on your advisory committee, so I know how good work is being done. And that is all your initiative and your commitment and your offer of participation and use of infrastructure at grassroots level to scale some of these approaches, including what you said, seed, soil, water are important, and we appreciate your participation. And you are, let me also announce that you are the recipient of the next Dr. M.S. Swaminathan Award. So I hope, and I would request Himanshu, when we go to Irad area to see the program, I'll request him to also accompany, and we will like to see what good is being done. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So,
Raj, may I please intervene for a moment? I have to go, and I want to make a couple of comments if you'll permit me to do that.
Please go ahead.
Very quickly, and these are, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm very grateful for everything, but some comments I want to make because they may give you different opinion to discuss. Few years back, a concept came in the US called FEW, F-E-W, food, energy, water. And I kept on telling them it's fuse, food, energy, water, and soil. And I think that connection still stands. I'm glad that Saigal Saab mentioned the importance of 3 S's. So that was one point I wanted to mention. Food, energy, water, soil, they go together. The second quick point I want to mention, climate smart agriculture is a great word. It's put out by World Bank and FAO. I'm not sure I could defend it scientifically. The scientific word, again, Saigalji mentioned climate resilient agriculture. Either agriculture is climate resilient or it's climate vulnerable. If there is some agriculture is climate smart, that means most of the current agriculture is climate stupid. And I don't think anybody wants to admit that. So scientifically, the focus we should have is climate resilient agriculture. The third point I want to quickly make is carbon trading. Carbon trading in the US started in 1990. It was called Chicago Climate Exchange. And Chicago Climate Exchange started at $1 a credit, $1 for 1 metric ton of carbon. I think 6 million acre farmer joined that. This carbon trading went up to $6 a ton in 2010 or somewhere around that, and then collapsed to 20 cents a ton, compared with European market of 30 euro a ton. So please, carbon trading and carbon marketing is a very good thing. I believe that what we had in the US was a false start. It will not work unless there is a definite cap on the burning of fossil fuel. If fossil fuel can be burnt without restriction, carbon trading market has no scope. It's simple as that. My fourth point I wanted to mention was the question concerning the zero budget that Prime Minister raised. In the soil science, there's a law called law of return. And the law of return simply states you must return whatever you take from the soil at the same place from where it was taken. Otherwise, you will not produce quality and quantity of food. And that applies. That must be respected. And that is about the question of Prime Minister had agreed with the UNCCD restoring 6 million hectares of land by 2030. And that agreement was signed in 2018 in Noida at the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. That agreement is still not on track. What I'm requesting, Dr. Pathak, is 26 million hectare is obviously a great idea, but let's take one step at a time and make sure it is done. And if I were to make a suggestion where the restoration should happen, it's the Shivalik hills of the lower Himalayas, all the way from Kashmir to Manipur and beyond. Those are the hills which are denuded. Those are the hills more than 7% gradient. Those are the mud hills that cause the drought flood syndrome. When Prime Minister Honorable Modi ji was present in the US, Assam was suffering from flood. And we know what happened to that. The only solution is reforest those hills. The last thing I want to mention is how much farmers should be paid. And we have sent a request to some US senators, 4 or 5 of us, the writer for that, for the US Farm Bill 2024. We are requesting $50 per acre. Do not put any hurdle on measurement, monitoring, and verification. Base it strictly on satellite imagery of land use and management practices. If land is being afforested, Lower Shivalik Hill, conservation tillage is happening, no burning takes place, and we promote drip fertigation, pay them $50. Don't ask any question. Those are my comments. Thank you very much. I apologize, I have to go, but I
Thank
really
you, Rattan Lal, appreciate, and we know you have to go, but we will continue, and we appreciate your taking time out to be with us, and also your offer, especially that you have mentioned to us that you would like to work with organizations like TAS and NAS to do something on ground in India. So we'll count on you, and maybe we have some roadmap, actionable roadmap, and how to proceed, and in partnership with Pathak, obviously, because implementation has to be through them. We can only advise, and advice would not help unless there is action. So
Raj, it's my duty, and you can call me on any time.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Colleagues, we also have with us people like Professor R.B. Singh, Dr. K.V. Raman, Mahesh Gatala, Professor Mohan Saxena, Dr. Kondania from FSII, and Professor Tamboli. So they are also participating, and we welcome them as well. So I think we have now only half an hour left, and try to be as quick so that we have input of everyone. And in the process, may I request now to begin with Dr. Jeet Srivastava, Umalele, and Shekhar Batsavle to have their brief interventions, and then we can have other colleagues to participate. So, Dr. Jeet Srivastava.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, and what an important topic. And I see people who could do on all fronts. I fully agree with what has been said. Just in a very brief, I want to put one suggestion. I am very pleased the progress India has made from the early days, Dr. Paroda, when we started rice wheat intensification program and so forth. However, I am today asking the group to think about one quick, doable thing which could be done, because ideas are great, but their real implementation and time and accountability is important to achieve it. I am going to say that I hear India is making enormous progress in infrastructure development. The roads and etc. are happening. Lots of road, even villages are being connected. I did go to India, traveled quite a bit by road, but I'm finding where we are very proud of the roads, there are no tree plantations around, are limited tree plantations around the road. I think we talked about the limitations of agroforestry, increasing the area, etc. But from it, India knows very well the value of the trees on all fronts from the time immemorial. I would urge, if we can form a small group, and if we can really convince, one of the very doable thing is, if we can work with Mr. Gadkari ji and agriculture and forestry together, whereby a quick time-bound take individual roads, a greening of the roads could be done. I just was also see this could be done even at individual level. Dr. Paroda, you and Sashi ji had done at least few in Rajasthan that we have seen the pictures. In my childhood, I come from a village, and even in those days, the roads, even the rural roads had trees, and we used to use them very much. I feel that it is possible if we can together work and impress, because you don't need a new land. There's enough of a benefit of it. The technology is known. And if we can put our together, and it can be done in a short period of time, we can involve different groups. That will be detailed to be thought about. But here, because of lack of time, I have done enough on crops and things, but I am urging the group. I see in a very short period of time, if certain groups are given certain roads and village roads and all that, and tree plantation can be done. And not only the tree plantation, because I have also supported quite a bit of tree plantation. I know that the report came, so many were planted, but there was nothing left after 2 years. I think with accountability, that after planting, maintain them for 3-4 years until they have grown and are there. I would urge the group for your suggestions. What is the possibility? I think we have dynamic leadership in India. And if we can say, making the roads and the railway lines are very good, but even if they can green them, we have a number of trees that we are planting. We are doing a lot of benefits. What kind of trees could be planted, that could be the decided, and advantages and so forth. But let me stop at that, Dr. Paroda, for a very group that if few people, even TAS and NAS and ICR, they think we can make a small group and make a proposal. And I think India, the government will buy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jit. Again, very useful suggestion. We know India is doing exceedingly well on construction of roads. Over the last 9 years, we have doubled our national highway, and it is almost 1.5 lakh kilometers, which used to be only around half of it before. So, but there are no trees being planted, and I agree with you. This is one suggestion which can go, and we are talking of plantation, agroforestry, and there are a lot of research achievements with the ICR system now. So message is well taken. I'm sure Professor Pathak is also hearing this. I now request Umaji, please. You all
Thank
know
you.
Dr. Uma Lele. She
Thank
is
you
a
very much. Can you hear me?
known economist globally and very eminent scientist, has her interest in Indian agriculture. She was also MS Swaminathan awardee, and we have been working with her for long. And she, in fact, had been, or rather currently, the General President of International Society of Economics. Umaji, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you and others for Rattan Lal, etc., for organizing this immensely impressive gathering. I'm overwhelmed by the kind of talent that you have brought together. I should indicate at the beginning that there is big construction going on in my apartment building. So there's a lot of drilling going on. And that's why I turned off the microphone. So if you hear more drilling, I'll have to stop right away because it's not easy to continue. I think my brief thought is, as you have said before, and many others have, we should take advantage of this gathering to do something concrete and develop some action programs. I think Jit's idea of planting trees is a great one. I used to work on forestry at the World Bank, and I know the problems of implementation in India. There are lots of detailed problems of implementation. There are a couple of Indians who have been working on that initiative, including Emmanuel De Silva, who is doing crowdsourcing of money and planting of trees, etc. So one of the things we can do is take a few initiatives on trees, water, soils, etc., and see what we can do to help improve implementation of those existing initiatives. Like soil certification, we know it was a great initiative, but hasn't been going that well. So I would suggest that we identify a small group of people who are interested in implementation of a few ideas, select those ideas, develop some baselines on what is going on in India, develop a systematic monitoring system to see how much change has actually occurred as distinct from promises and announcements that it has occurred, and then start monitoring progress. And by monitoring progress of work done by this group, the subgroup of people who are interested in particular initiatives, maybe 2 or 3 on soils, water, and forestry, we can probably try and begin to do some action-oriented programs and begin to show some impact. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to join this group and to be able to say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Maji. Appreciate very much. And your suggestion of forming a group of committed people is very, very important to move ahead. And may I now request Shekharji?
Yes, yes.
You are the person who has been doing plantation and zero till on the ground. So
Yes.
briefly, since time is short, I'm sorry if we can make it brief, and we have circulated your video already to
Okay.
everyone.
Okay.
So,
All right.
please.
So namaskar to all of you from Sagunabad, Maharashtra. Like I was introduced, I'm a farmer, but we also have a NGO called Saguna Rural Foundation. I'm going to be talking about our technique SRT. SRT is the mission of our team. SRT means Saguna Regenerative Technique, which is conservation and regenerative agriculture, no-till method of farming, which does not cause atrocity of tillage, effectively reduces the soil erosion, promotes the natural production of abundant earthworms, increases soil organic carbon, considerably increases productivity of the land, a proven climate smart technique with added effect of amazing happiness and confidence to the farmer. The initial motive of this experiment was to get rid of puddling and transplanting of rice cultivation. The journey started in 1998, reached to its first successful result in 2011. The SRT is now accepted by FAO in 2021 on their TECA platform for smallholder farmers, also accepted by Indian Social Responsibility for their Antyodaya Yojana in 2020. After 11 years of untiring efforts, today more than 5,000 farmers are happy and confident in 8 agroclimatic zones covering 25 districts of Maharashtra, and almost all crops, including rice, cotton, maize, soybean, pulses, onion, groundnut, vegetables, and so on. SRT is now also officially accepted by Agriculture Department of Maharashtra. Present Chief Minister, Honorable Shri Eknathji Shinde, visited our farm just a month ago to felicitate SRT farmers. And he is quite clear and loud about SRT as a solution for happiness of the farmers of Maharashtra. Despite of receiving worldwide recognition to SRT, we are yet waiting to hear from local agricultural universities. Hope this platform may give us opportunity to pass this hurdle as well. Our slogan is SRT se Gungan, Mati Balwan, Pik Palwan, Shetkari Dhanwan. That means SRT is humming, soil enriching, crop booming, and farmers empowering. I believe it is high time to give top priority to happiness of the farmer and healthy soil. The easiest way forward is a no-till regenerative method of farming. If you allow me, I would like to show you 3 or 4 slides quickly.
Time is short, but if you can make it quickly, please.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think most of them are already in your video.
Okay, so this is a slide which
Just
shows sustainable
run it
quality.
quickly, please.
Yeah, sustainable quality and quantity food supply at affordable price while soil environment and farmer becomes happy. In this slide, I'm showing you the impacts of SRT, where all types of soils are showing presence of earthworms and dirt to soil in less than 6 years. It is possible with SRT method, and 10 years is wonderful. Impact of SRT is crop is booming. All crops, we are getting double the productivity. And the most important is farmer becoming happy and confident. So this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Batsavleji. We know on grassroots, and I think what we need is action at the ground, not talk. So that's a good example, and we will try to interact and learn from your experiences more. Now we have our other participants, and I would rather request 2 more people and then others later. Professor R.B. Singh, happy to have you. Would you like to kindly say a few words or any intervention at this stage? R.B. Singh ji, have we lost you? It seems he is not there now, but I saw his name and he had joined. Then maybe Kondania ji, would you like to say something at this stage? Representing private
you.
sector.
Thank you, sir. Yes. So I have only 3-4 points, sir, which I will mention very briefly, well-known points. First thing is that farmer must make money, sir. Whatever methods we promote, at the end of the day, it will scale up only when they are commercially viable and farmer makes money. So climate resilient agriculture, whatever we recommend should be, the farmer should be able to make money. That's point number 1. So we should suggest only such solutions where they are commercially viable. Second is that government policy should incentivize sustainable agricultural practices and climate resilience. So whatever incentives are being given today to the farmers through different subsidies, if they are diverted towards following sustainable practices and climate resilient practices, I think that will actually, because at the end of the day, sir, it is the money which actually makes a big difference to the farmer, and that will actually help him to actually follow these practices. Third is that technology strategy is important, sir, in all these things, and including energy, chemicals. All chemicals are not bad, so we should see what are the chemicals that can be used, and then whether it is seeds or biotech or digital technologies, or multiple technologies are required in achieving this. So there should be a technology landscape which must be prepared for this. Next point is that there should be a national strategy with active engagement of states and political parties. Right now, the problem we have is that different states follow different things, and as you know, even things like water policy of different states, free water, free power. We can't say on one hand that save natural resources and on the other hand give these freebies. So I think there has to be a national strategy which is agreed by all states and different political parties, and that is also very important. And my final point is that involvement of private industry as a key stakeholder in scaling up some of these things is very important, because at the end of the day, these things cannot be done through just outreach by public institutions or government departments. This has to become a part of the commercial structure of the agriculture, and that can be done by private industry, whether it is investments, scale up, product development, service development, extension. All these things can be done by private industry. So there should be a dialogue with private industry, and there should be onboarding of the private industry into taking this up as a part of their own business. It is not just a CSR activity, it has to become a part of their business. So those are a few things from my side, sir. Otherwise, everything else is covered by others. Thank you very much.
I think important again, your suggestion, and through corporate social responsibility, much can be done again. And I'm sure corporate sector will be willing to come forward to scale some of these. So we have to have industry as an important partner, as a stakeholder. Agreed. Any other colleague would like to make any comment? Kindly welcome, because now we have 5 or 6 minutes left. 1 minute each. Any input, please?
Dr. Paroda, I have to leave soon,
Yeah,
so let
Prabhu,
me just come in and make
welcome.
one quick comment. You know, traditionally, agriculture policy in India has been so focused on food security, as we all know. And now with the additional goal on climate resilience, one needs to figure out a way that you don't see a trade-off between food security and climate resilience, especially when you look at crops such as rice, which is one of the largest emitters of methane. Then how do you come to that policy that reduces trade-off between enhancing food security while also enhancing mitigation options? So I think that's a big challenge that the government and all of us in the scientific community need to think about. There are lots of technologies out there that allow you to reduce the trade-offs, but I think the incentives at the farm level are very limited. The incentives around subsidies for inputs, the procurement system, etc. And I think just getting that set of policies right is very important as you look ahead. Let me stop.
Great. Appreciate again very much, Prabhu, for our group. Those who are not aware, he is currently chairing the CSA board and an eminent economist, earlier director of economic division in FAO, and also with ERI and CEMET, and also Bill Gates Foundation and TAC and so on. So we appreciate your input, and what you said is very important. And I hope institutions like CSA would play an important role for scaling some of those technologies which can help in addressing the adaptation and mitigation issues that we are discussing, but not at the cost of food production decline. Very well message received. Any other input, please?
Thank you,
Dr.
Paroda.
Yeah, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Please,
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll be very short and complete within a minute. Sir, it was very nice to hear from Dr. Rattan Lal about his meeting with scientists of Indian origin with the Honorable Prime Minister while he was in US. Actually, I'm sure those who are in India, they know, but those who are in US, for them, the government of India has announced 50,000 crore rupees and establishment of National Research Foundation, which was announced 2-3 years back by the finance minister, but it was not implemented. I think this is a sequel of the meeting with the scientists of Indian origin and pointing out that India's contribution to R&D is much less than any other country. Sir, I would like to just comment on two things. One is like the way you were mentioning that we have doubled the national highways. I think we need to expand our irrigation. Although we have covered now around 50% area is irrigated, but while all other climate resilient practices are upscaled and all that, if government of India has so many schemes, if irrigation can be expanded, that will pay a rich dividend in combating climate change. I also would like to say that during last 10 years, the adaptation has paid a rich dividend, and because of which India has been increasing its food production despite so much of climate odds. So I think with these few words, I would say once again, thank you. And
thank you.
Let me, at the risk of repetition, sir, let me congratulate Dr. Rattan Lal, although he's not here, that he could tell Prime Minister about the reality of zero budget natural farming. I mean, on one hand, the country's research institutions do not have fund to do research. And on other hand, natural zero budget, natural farming, which had been proved, scientifically proved, not sustainable, is being promoted.
And your report, which you chaired for National Academy on this, is worth going through and revisiting before we really embark on large scale zero budget natural farming programs, etc. So I agree. Thank you. Anyone else would like to, Dr. Ladda, you would like to say anything for a
Yeah,
brief?
thank you, Dr. Paroda. Just quickly, I think what we need to do is mapping the practices, the good practices, including co-benefits, and not just the carbon sequestration. Definitely, I think mitigation is very much possible, but carbon sequestration is not always feasible. So that's number one point. And the other one is maybe characterizing and targeting the areas where it's feasible. And the third point, which has been made also by others, is incentivizing farmers for following those good practices. I think these are three, priority points I think we should consider.
Thank you. You are again initiator of Rice Wheat Consortium and its expansion further. Maybe we can have brief 1 minute each. If you people agree, you are not hurry to just I invite Dr. Ramesh Kanwar, any comment you have? Then Dr. Sidhu.
Dr. Thank you very much for
Yes,
giving me
Dr.
this opportunity. I'm very happy to listen all the stalwarts, and I'm very happy to listen Dr. Pathik's comment that if we take only 25% area of India under conservation agriculture, then like we will contribute in big way. I think this is a very important, and this is a very important message which should go to each stakeholder as well as each university, that how we can reach up to this 25% area under conservation agriculture. And yes, of course, like we need for conservation agriculture, we need smart machinery to do this, but it's not that it is not doable. It is already doable, and we are proving it for the last many years for many years at various platforms. So this meeting was like really very energy giving back. I'm really happy that I'm a part of this one. Thank you very much.
You have been initiator of the Happy Seeder program.
Thank
spent
you.
your 2 decades and it worked so well at Borlaug Institute. And those results are remarkable on carbon sequestration in Punjab. It's making an impact and reducing the emission through burning of rice straw. And we congratulate you for that and happy to see you. Any other person would like to make anything? Tamboli Saab, any point?
Well, I have a quick, can you hear me?
Yeah. We hear you.
I have a quick response, and I appreciate your organizing this meeting. One point with Modi ji, right, with Dr. Rattan Lal, was about education. And nothing has been mentioned, and I will request this August group to follow up on education, because higher education and human resource development is one of the key factors for implementing what all the programs that we are talking about. And second thing I want to mention is about the energy resources being used in India is number coal, and coal burning is causing a lot of carbon dioxide emission. But unfortunately, India's needs are such that they cannot stop using coal. So there has to be more emphasis on alternative source of energy than using the coal. And third thing I want to say is I commend Dr. Rattan Lal for supporting, for negating the use of zero budget. So thank you very much for giving.
Thank you for participating and I appreciate always your support. Now we have one or two more people left, so it will be not good if we leave them. Dr. A.K. Singh, if you are still with us, maybe he has left. Then Dr. Mahesh Gatala, are you
Sir, Dr.
around?
Mahapatra ji also there.
I'm sir.
Oh, I have not seen. Oh, sorry. Welcome, Dr. Mahapatra. Dr. Mahesh, you can say, then we can request Dr. Mahapatra. Maybe you
Thank you,
be with
sir,
us for
for giving me
another
opportunity.
5 minutes. Yeah, briefly, please. He is working again at the ground level in Nepal, Bangladesh, and India with the CIMIT on a sustainable agriculture program. Mahesh.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to highlight one point that despite having more resources in Eastern, why we will have a low productivity. And one of reason is soil acidity. Nobody is talking about that. So we need to be focused on that, and that's improve unexplored areas that where we can get second, green revolutions and much productivity and gains in Eastern regions. That's my point to be here. And another is mapping the right technologies. One way we are talking about conservation agriculture, but another way we are talking about counterproduct machinery and like rotavators and all, how we'll go that as well. So that need to be also addressed. That's all. Thank you very much, sir.
Professor Gajendra Singh, I think on machinery part you have said.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say that ICR should ask all the institute to follow conservation agriculture on their farms as much as possible. So that becomes a good demonstration, and also encourage state agriculture universities to follow conservation agriculture. So I think if we become the carrier, we should promote through ICR institutes and SAUs. And another thing is that vertical farming is another issue which really will help a big way, especially supplying vegetables and all that to the city, urban areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gajendra Singh. We appreciate your joining us. Dr. Mahapatra, welcome to this dialogue.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. Good. I didn't see earlier in the list.
No, that's fine. I was listening, so it's fine, sir.
My apologies. Sorry.
But I sincerely thank you for organizing this important meeting online. Though you are there in US, but still your abiding interest in countries' development, that brings everyone together who matter. Importantly, many things have been spoken about, and I don't want to really repeat. But I thought few points, though at the cost of repetition, would be important to mention. Since you say that there is time limitation, subsequently I can provide that to you. But 2-3 points I'd like to mention here. With the kind of experience I had in ICR, the example of pulses and the productivity gains that we had and production gains we had in pulses. 1 year, everything was put in place and we had 6 million tons jump. And we continued increasing and we have 10 million tons more production than what we had in, say, 14-15. So it's only recent history. And that tells that if appropriate policies and support system is there, we should be able to achieve whatever we intend to achieve. So it's not really impossible to have climate resilient agriculture or sustainable production system and so on and so forth, what all we have been talking. I mean, we have, it has been mentioned and described by eminent scientists already. So, but then 2 or 3 million tons still we are importing. Why? At times I hear economists, famous economists arguing that import is good. So if we say import is good and accept as a matter of policy, so that's fine. But how long we should continue importing for a country like India, and that too spending 1.5 lakh crores on edible oil, for instance. And is it really sustainable? And if tomorrow we have to import food grains, where we would be? Or selectively, we would allow importing and then continue this policy, and the process keep changing, and then in the process impact in a big way the production process, and farmers would get distrust with this kind of things. So there is the fundamental problem that the decisions, the policy decisions that is being prescribed by some of the economists, need to be really looked at critically. That with regard to export and import, and the decisions which is being influenced in the process. So this is a very, very important point, sir. And there has to be a separate debate on this. And rest of the decisions will follow. And that is probably one of the reasons why the research, agriculture research, has not really got funding, which is required. Because if we say that import is good, so research is not required. So why should you go for research? Keep on importing and supplying supporting the consumers. So this is a fundamental problem, and problem which is afflicting Indian agriculture. And we can't increase our research budget by 2,500 crores or even 1,000 crore, and in the process negatively impact all that we see with regard to climate resilience. So this is one point, sir. And the second one is, and a corollary of that is that it is possible, whether climate resilient agriculture, the conservation agriculture, regenerative agriculture, whatever we say, it's all possible. And the kind of expertise we have in this country, the kind of institutions we have built over years, and thanks to you for that. So expertise, institutions, all are there. And if you allow them to starve, so obviously things will not happen. And if your policies are distorted, so obviously things will not happen. So this is one point. The second point is that we say that we have a number of practices which are positive, nature positive practices, or we say sustainable agriculture practices. So how do we incentivize? As it was mentioned that farmers are not going to really accept a large scale. The conservation agriculture we have been trying, it has not really gone beyond a particular limit, and according to our expectation, it's not really moving. And so also there are many other things. So how do we incentivize this? The carbon trading should come in a big way, or our subsidy system should be actually modified. It was mentioned earlier, and I re-emphasize that our subsidy system should be relooked at and linked to all these practices. And I'm sure we should be. And now in this PM Pranam program, I believe there is some support to organic. But that's not really all. Probably there's more to really look into it critically. So that's the second point. The third, Dr. Gupta mentioned that irrigation system to increase, but the issue is the kind of water wastage that is happening in this country. We can increase irrigation, but the kind of wastage that we see, we can't really continue doing this. They keep pumping underground water and keep doing flood irrigation, and unless we go for the appropriate use of water, so that unsustainability would be an issue, and will not be able to really address this. So this is where I have seen that we need to really focus, and Honorable Prime Minister has really called upon everybody to really look into it. And there is also a scheme for that, but things are not really happening, and a lot more need to be really done. And that's a push which is required, essential. And so also for the other components of the sustainable agriculture practices. So I can go on, but I would not like to really go beyond this for 2-3 points. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, very important and good that you could give your input and could intervene at this stage. Issues relating to anything which we want to take up. It seems we have done well when there is crisis. When we didn't have food, we had green revolution.
Yeah.
And Borlov had said that had there not been policy support, which you talked also, the right policy, and had there not been institutions, and had there not been also the technologies and partnership, this all would have not been possible. And we did it during oilseed mission time. So you need a missionary approach. You did it for the pulses as you have defined it. So we can do what is required is enabling policy and whether those are in right direction. And in my report also, the group to the government, we have said that these incentives should be, rather subsidies be converted into incentive. And Professor Rattan Lal also said that what you require is something like, he said, $80 and per acre. And we have also said 10,000 rupees per acre if incentive is provided. That can make a difference for taking up these climate resilient technologies. And no doubt there are many things we can discuss. Micro irrigation can play important role. As Dr. Gupta said, we are stuck up with our irrigation potential at 70 million hectare. And this micro irrigation support was initiated 2 decades ago. We have not yet really gone beyond 6 million hectare. So probably there is potential for 10 million hectare to be covered. So area can be increased. Fertigation, nutrient use efficiency are the problem. So maybe that is another area and require separate webinar of this kind of policies. And maybe Umaji is taking note of it, but no doubt relating to climate resilient agriculture, we have got good input today. We will try to capture some of these good suggestions and see as to how in a consortium mode we can work with stakeholders to make a difference at grassroots level and convince the policymakers, because I have been talking with policymakers on conservation agriculture, and their argument is, if it was so good a technology, Dr. Saab, farmers would have picked it like they picked up the green revolution technology. So the issue is they need to be convinced, and there is some gap which need to be bridged. So let us have more dialogue, discussion, and as a think tank, we all who are gathered here today, probably if continue dialogue of this kind on selected issues and subjects, probably we can pass on our joint views to the policymakers rather than individual views. And that can make a difference than what we have been individually making. And working together with the stakeholders is important. So I would not like to make it longer because we promised maximum 90 minutes. You are getting late for dinner. So Dr. Bhagmal, could you please briefly propose a vote of thanks to all of us? You have to unmute yourself.
Respected Dr. Paroda and distinguished experts, Well, we have now come to the end of this important discussion meeting. The meeting indeed had been very, very productive and useful. Firstly, because Professor Rattan Lal has provided an update of the meeting of eminent Indian experts with the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in New York. And secondly, because a very good discussion on scaling climate smart agriculture to sustain the growth of Indian agriculture and accelerate the pace to meet India's commitment towards carbon sequestration under the Paris Agreement by 2030. I am indeed highly grateful to Dr. Raj Padoda, Chairman TAS and former Secretary DARE and DG ICR for taking this important initiative to organize this important meeting. My grateful thanks are also to Professor Rattan Lal, Distinguished Professor of Soil Science and Director CAFES Rattan Lal Center for Carbon Sequestration, Ohio State University, for briefing us about the interaction of select group of eminent experts from diverse disciplines and the possibilities of research collaboration. I also take this opportunity to express my most sincere thanks to Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Dr. Suri Sehgal, Dr. Uma Lele, Dr. Jeet Srivastava, Dr. M.L. Jat, and Sri Shekhar Chandrasekhar Batsavle for their interesting presentations. Brief interventions were also made by Dr. Ram Kundonia, Dr. Prabhu Pingali, Dr. H.S. Gupta, Dr. J.K. Ladda, Dr. H.S. Sidhu, Dr. Mahesh Gothala, Dr. Gajendra Singh, Dr. Mahapatra. And I am very grateful to all of them and also to all other participants who could not get opportunity to speak because of the time limit. Once again, I thank you all.
Okay, with this, thank you everyone. I'm grateful personally for all of you to have joined us. Hope we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.